All right, we got a really special guest today. We're standing here with Mike Pasman, a successful business owner in Red Deer, Alberta here. Mike owns Alberta European Motorworks and Alberta Asian Motorworks. And we're really excited to have you here, Mike.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
So maybe start off by telling us how you got involved with the two businesses that you have.
Well, Dad and Mom bought Express Automotive Center in 2001 off a guy. It was a domestic repair shop working on literally anything from semi-trucks to minivans. And probably about 2004, 2005, we started working on a couple of BMWs and realized there was a market for it. And so we went strictly European in 2006, changed the name about that time as well. And we've been, strictly European at that shop for going on 16, 17 years now. And then about 3 years ago, the shop right next door actually used to be a Midas for a number of years. It went out of business or vacated, whatever happened there. And Dad and I must have had the same dream one night, woke up and came to work and both looked at each other and went, we should probably open up a shop here before somebody else does. And so we decided to open up Alberta Asian Motorworks, doing strictly Asian cars. Obviously at this point, because it's so new, we'll work on Ford trucks and GMs and everything like that as well. But it's been a struggle there for sure, opening up just before the pandemic hit. And
great timing.
Yeah, super great timing. Yeah.
Right when everyone's driving everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when we, stay home and don't go anywhere, but, bring your car into the shop and spend a bunch of money that you're not currently making on it. Yeah.
I guess that was, you mentioned it a little bit, but that was one of my questions coming into today was, can I bring my Dodge Ram to your repair shop if something goes wrong?
Yeah, I mean, long-term objective, we'd love to just do, Infiniti, Lexus,
Nissan,
Acura, kind of stick with that, not to come across as ignorant, but we wanted to we'd love to stay in that high-end market, because at the European shop, that's all we do over there: BMW, Mercedes, Jaguar, Land Rover. So if we could, we'd love to just do Acura, Infiniti, Lexus over there. But, right now, just kind of building our clientele, trying to penetrate the market a little bit more in that realm is definitely a little more challenging right now. So yeah, we'll work on anything. I mean, our techs are, one of my female techs, she's dealership trained from Dodge. She worked at Hyundai, Dodge, and I believe Chev. I can't recall 100%, but definitely got lots of domestic training there as well. So yeah, we've got everything, all the tools that we need for that stuff too. So definitely can work on your Dodge truck for sure.
Love it. I'll be bringing it by.
Yeah, not saying no to anyone's money right now, I think, is a very good business plan.
Yeah, and that's exactly it, right? I mean, being in hopefully trying to get out of this pandemic sooner rather than later. Holy hell.
Well, it's over in Alberta.
For sure. Yeah, well, I mean, everybody just does whatever they want now, so we might as well just carry on. But yeah, so I mean, just kind of building the clientele and getting that client base up. It's definitely something that, we'll work on anything for you for sure.
So for those that don't know, you guys are located on the southbound gates at the bottom of the North Hill. Have you guys always been in that since you bought the original business back in 2001?
Yeah, so Express Automotive Center has been there, oh my God, since the 90s. That's been a shop since the 50s. We've actually got a picture up on our wall from 1965. It was an old truck stop. They actually had the bathrooms at the European shop were outside the business because it was a gas station and a truck stop. So they had the one bathroom actually had a shower in it at one point because the truckers used to use that. So yeah, that shop's been there forever. And same thing with the where the Asian shop's located. That's been a repair shop, man, I don't even know, since the 40s or 50s. I think It used to be a Ford dealership back in the day.
Back when it was on the outskirts of Red Deer, probably.
Yeah, I think that if you look back, I think Michael Dawes got some picture of it on a Facebook page that, because Gaetz Ave was just that, it was north-south bound in that one, on the one side. They didn't have, right?
Yeah.
And so there was not like a traffic circle, but like a four-way stop at our intersection. And that's basically where the city ended. So yeah, it's been around. That location's been there for a long, long time.
So, Mike, I will say I'm pretty jealous today because we talk about family businesses. You talk about you and your old man. My dad had a car dealership. I know not one lick about vehicles, like none. So he decided it would be good to part ways with that before I came through. Now, thanks a lot,
I
Graham.
ran it into the ground. So that was a smart move, Graham.
I'd like to just, honest question, has it always been in your DNA, vehicles, mechanics, like all, repair?
Yeah, honestly, I think so. I mean, my dad bought me a Mustang when I was 14. I was sitting in the basement and I heard rumble, rumble, rumble. And I said, what the hell? Mom and dad had went away for the afternoon, didn't tell me where they were going. And it was like the middle of March. And he drove a 1984 Mustang T-top V8 back from some shithole small town in the dead of winter and parked it in front of the house and said, come outside. He said, happy birthday. And that was 14 years old, bought me a Mustang. So yeah, we spent 2 years building that car. I didn't quite have it ready for my 16th birthday, which was probably good because I almost lost my license a couple of times from having that thing in high school. Right. So if I'd had it 6 months earlier, you never know what might have happened there. But yeah, him and I tore the engine out of that. This was long before my parents built this huge garage onto their house now. And so long before that, we had this shitty little carport that it was not heated. It wasn't insulated. It didn't even have a garage door. And we pulled the engine out of the Mustang in that carport, tore it right down to the block, rebuilt it, put it in. Then that was about the time that they had bought the shop. So it spent a lot of time in the back bay getting extra power wires and shit. I had a double battery in that thing. I had the fucking sound system in that thing, man.
You probably had a sweet deck in there.
Oh, buddy. I had it had like one of those removable face plates, just in case. Yep. Oh yeah. No, it was sweet. So I don't know. My dad had cars when I was a kid. My dad's been a mechanic technician since he was 19 or 18 years old. He's got a picture of me sitting on the hood of his 1972 Mustang Mach 1 Fastback when I was like maybe 2 years old. So I don't know. I think getting into the shop was, I don't know. I had this Calm teacher in high school and I fucking...
I remember Calm.
I probably shouldn't chirp the guy too loud because he might hear me, but he didn't have a lot of faith in me in high school and basically was like, well, the stigma around being a trades guy back then was, well, if you aren't smart, you might as well go into the trades, right? And so he said to me one day, well, doesn't your dad own a shop? I said, well, yeah. Well, why don't you get into the RAP program? You can get your hours, you can get paid. And I said, okay, well, fuck, I don't know what I'm going to do outside of high school, so we might as well. And yeah, that's where it kind of got the ball rolling from there.
Sounded like a great advisor.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
so give him a shout out right now.
The way he approached it, maybe not the best way to go about it, but
sometimes the wrong way still gets you there.
Yeah,
even if you go up on the curb a couple of times.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm not sure how I didn't end up in the trades program then.
Because you don't listen. I'm sure your Calm teacher told you that many times and you just weren't listening. So Mike, when we talk about more the customized kind of auto repair shops, for someone like me, or when you buy a car from a dealer, obviously usually you get a certain amount with a warranty or whatever. And then a lot of people just it's easy to call your dealership and just go there for whatever repairs. But what's the advantage other than obviously supporting a local business to go into a specialty shop like Alberta European or Asian Motorworks?
Well, I think, I want to say our sort of claim to our personal fame, I think, if I can speak bluntly, is it's very personable, right? Like when you walk into a dealership, especially the big dealerships in the city, BMW, Mercedes, you're just a number to them. They don't give a shit who you are unless you're buying a brand new G-Wagon every year and you're dropping, $300,000-$400,000 a year. Okay, cool. Thanks for buying your $100,000 X5. We'll see you in 6 months for your next service or even a year, whatever it might be. And so for us, I mean, 95% of the people that come into our shop are return customers. And I make an effort that if I see a car pull into the parking lot if I don't know right away who that is, I try to do a quick search on my shop program. So when they walk in, I can go, "Hey, Dustin, good to see you. Thanks for coming back again." And I think that's the personal touch that we give to everything we do just changes your experience at the shop. I mean, mechanics they've had a bad rap for a long time, and we're really trying hard to change that, with our digital inspections that we do, so that we can send you pictures of your oil leaks or your dirty air filter, so that when I call you and say, "Hey, Kev, you need an air filter," you're not going to go, "Oh, fuck, is this guy pulling my chain again? Is he just trying to sell me a bunch of shit I don't need?" Like, we've sent you that inspection. You can look at it. You visually see, this is the air filter out of my car.
Oh my God, don't get me started on air filters. Every time I go to Mr. Lube for an oil change, they try and sell me like a $90 air filter. And I bought it one time and I've never forgiven myself. It's I got ripped off because I could have got it for like $10 from Canadian Tire. So
but now
and then never installed it.
You're barking up the wrong tree though, because for me, I mean, yeah, you could buy that air filter for $10 at Canadian Tire, absolutely. But we don't make a lot of money on parts. I mean, obviously we get the majority of our money that we make, if our technicians are doing their job right, is on our labor. But you come in for an oil change. An oil change is a complete loss leader for me. I make next to $0 on an oil change. The objective for us is to gain your trust and gain you as a long-term customer, so that when you need that air filter or you need that brake job, you're not thinking, "I'm going to go call up the Dodge dealer. I'm going to go see Mike because he's going to take good care of my car." And yeah, most people don't know how to stick that air filter in themselves. You know what I mean? Like, that's the other problem with YouTube now, is everybody can just essentially YouTube everything, and then it's lost for us, right? But we just got to try to make sure that we're doing the best we can for our customers. So,
well, I guess what got me was I bought the air filter, the cabin air filter, and then my next trip back there, they tried to sell it to me again like 6 months later. And I just felt like, okay, they're not even looking at it. They're just trying to upsell me. So building that trust, I think, is a big importance to people that don't know a lot about vehicles.
See, but again, that brings back to my point of our digital inspection programs, right? Like, yeah, you might need that cabin air filter after 6 months, especially around here. Like, I have a lot of people go, "Really? I need that cabin air filter again?" Well, yeah, look at it. Like the dust and the pollen and the leaves and the dirt and the gravel and all the shit that we have to deal with around here. Definitely, you're going to change your cabin air filter a hell of a lot more here than you are in San Francisco, because they don't have fall. They don't have all the leaves. They don't have the dirt. They don't have the dust. And I mean, they've got a lot more pollution than we do, but but that's, you're not seeing that in your cabin filter. But when I send you a picture of that, even after 6 months, if we just did it, you're not going to go, "Oh, Mike's trying to sell me another cabin air filter again. Fuck that guy."
Well, I wouldn't say that, Mike.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say that to you.
That was a great way, really diplomatic way twice of telling Lund to shut the fuck up. Hey, we got a mechanic here, but I'm going to keep saying all this stuff you can do by yourself and get for cheaper and not go to a mechanic. But we got to learn something, and the wrong way can still get us to the right place.
Okay. I mean, I thought it was a fair point. I got ripped off by Mr. Lube once, and it'll never happen again.
Hey, no, that's fair. But again, it allowed me to bring me back to my point of our DVIs again, right? Yeah. Our digital vehicles and inspections. So I appreciate it, Lundy.
So that brings me to my next question is, do you find that a lot of your work now is more like in the past it would be mechanical, and nowadays everything's going electrical or digital, as you said? Has the way the job is done changed over the last 20 years or so to more digitization, or less kind of wrenches and more microchips?
Yes and no. I mean, I would say the one major change between where I started in the industry to where we are now is it's a lot more preventative maintenance. People used to be breakdown. We call them our breakdown customers. They'd only come to see you if their car was broken, check engine light was flashing, their brakes were squealing, that sort of thing. Whereas now, every time that car comes through our shop, it gets the same inspection, and that inspection is completely complimentary. And that allows us to keep our customers informed. Hey, your brakes are at 4 mil. I'm going to talk about brakes because I know Kev needs them really fucking bad.
We'll talk about that.
But yeah, no, you like, oh, hey, you know, your brakes are at 4 millimeters. I'm estimating based on, you know, how much you drive. You've got another 6 months before that's going to be squealing, you know. So I would suggest that we price that out for you now. That way in 6 months when they do start squealing, you already know, okay, Mike sent me a quote. It's going to be $600 for my brakes, whatever the cost might be. So you can, you know, be a little bit more proactive with that stuff, right? Did that answer your question? I mean, we definitely scan cars a lot more than we used to. That's for sure.
Well, I think it gives you the opportunity to be a little bit budget cautious too, that if you, well, not only are you building the trust of, hey, I'm not just going to replace your brakes now because I know we can go another 2 months on them, but now here's your quote. It's $1,000, you know, for the average Joe that isn't wanting to spend $1,000 on their car. They can sit there and go, okay, in the next couple of months, I need to put some money aside here so I can go back and see Mike and get my brakes done so that my car doesn't end up in the shop with rear-ending somebody in a...
And that's exactly, we try to avoid that with people, right? Is I don't want you to come into my shop and have me write up a $6,000 estimate, you know? I mean, does that still happen? Absolutely. We get a lot of first-time customers, and I hate writing up a $6,000 estimate, but the other thing that I hate doing is not telling you everything that's wrong with your car. Because if you come to me and we do an oil change, and then I tell you, hey, you need, you know, rear shocks. And then 3 months down the road, your front struts are leaked out too, because I was afraid to tell you that they were leaked out at that first appointment because I didn't want to scare you away. You know, do we lose customers that way? Sometimes I think we do, for sure. But I want to be transparent, you know, and that's the thing. We're not here to take your money. I mean, we've got a business to run. Our business is repairing cars. And I'm going to tell you everything that's wrong with your car. You still have the choice. Do you want to do it all? Some people do, you know, and our job is to keep that car running for as long as we can and avoid you going to the dealership to buy a new one.
Mike, do you still get people that come to you that don't know what's wrong with their vehicle, and so they make the sound with their mouth?
Oh, buddy.
Or like,
Can you give us an example, Lund?
Well, like, every time I hit my brakes, they go, or every time I turn the vehicle on, it goes,
yeah, 100%.
You might have cartoon characters in your vehicle.
Like, that's what I'm picturing. Like, but I guess nowadays you can probably just run one of your scans and figure it out. But in the old days, you'd probably have to check. It'd probably take like a week to figure out what was wrong in the vehicle. Like nowadays you could probably just.
Well, so this is a common misconception. You know, people think that we just hook up our scan tool and it tells us what's wrong with the car.
You just don't point a laser at it and it just goes, oh, that's the brakes. Oh, it's the radiator. Oh, it's...
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I wish it were that easy.
One day we'll get there.
One day, you know? And, you know, we're getting closer to that every day. I mean, cars are smart. Like, the amount of computing power in a car, the new S-Class Mercedes, I want to say last year or the year before, had something absurd like 230 modules in it in one car. I mean, that's a $160,000 four-door sedan, but still, I mean, that's a lot of different computers that all have to communicate and all have to talk. And if they see one thing wrong with one module, you know, sometimes depending on the communication line it's on, it could pull the whole line down. So there's problems with that. But then, you know, the misconception again is, well, you just hook it up to your scan tool and it tells you what's wrong with it. Well, no, unfortunately it doesn't. It goes, okay, so we've seen a fault with this system. Now we've got to try to track down what sensor, what module, what problem is causing that. And that's the thing, like that misconception still, it plagues us every day. People just think that all we do is hook up a scan tool and it tells us what's
and
wrong.
they think it's costing you $10 to do it and you're charging them 80 or whatever it is.
Right.
And they're like, oh, they're just stealing my money. And
Like,
This air
you
filter
guys-
costs how much?
Do you guys want to hear something fun? We just bought a new Mercedes-Benz factory scan tool at the European shop. What do you think it cost us?
I have no fucking clue.
45,000.
250 grand.
I'd like to hear Lund guess.
Yeah, I'll go with Cav. I'll say 300 grand.
Yeah, well, you guys, you're right in the middle. We're 100 grand for this scan tool, and that doesn't pay for our subscriptions every year.
Right.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So and that's the thing, like we charge money to diagnose cars, and people go, well, why? Well, like the scan tool, I got $300,000 worth of scanning equipment at the European shop. Right? Like it's not cheap to run a business, an automotive business anymore. You know, this long gone are the days of carburetors and no modules. You know, my old Mustang didn't have a single module in it. It had a electronic ignition module. That was it. Do you think that thing gave me fault codes? Fuck no.
It sounded like.
Yeah.
You couldn't have picked, 4 perfect guys to be doing this interview with, because I would think that I could speak for all of us in saying that none of us really know a ton about cars. So I think we're kind of the average Joe on this, and it'd be a good learning piece for Mr.
No, I would
Nissan
say
Sentra.
average Joe might be giving all of us a little too much credit, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, I'm way low. I'm average schmo.
So just an example of kind of the great customer service that Mike and his team offer. So this was probably in the fall, just a couple months ago, and I knew I needed an oil change, and I've just been sick of the dealerships, and I have a Jeep, and I knew Mike a little bit from the gym and from high school, and so I messaged him on Instagram, and I just said, hey, like I know you don't work on Jeeps, I just assumed, and can you just refer me to like a local place, because I don't want to deal with the dealerships, and I wanted a good recommendation from someone I trust. And he's like, hey man, we can help you out. Like we'll have it in tomorrow. And sure enough, we had the Jeep in. So like you say, maybe that doesn't happen all the time, or in the future that might not happen moving forward as you guys get busier. But I was really thankful he was able to get me in. And then I was having I was noticing my brakes were starting to squeak, and it's a relatively new vehicle. So
It's an SRT8 Jeep, guys. Just so let's put it into perspective here.
so
Hey, Kev, what was the sound the brakes are making?
I was really thankful that Mike just gave me some great advice. He's like, honestly, there's I think a rock got stuck in there and scratched up my rotor or something, and stuff that I don't understand because I'm dumber than the average Joe apparently. So
Don't say it, Dustin. Don't you dare say it.
I don't know what he's gonna say.
I was going to say average schmo.
Said it once, and he's just gonna fucking run with it now.
But Mike gave me some honest advice. He's like, there's nothing really wrong with your brakes. It's just they're squeaky, and there's nothing we can do about it. And he said, I can get you a quote on the brakes. It's not a necessity that you spend it. I'm never going to tell you to not spend your money here if you want to, but there's nothing functionally wrong with your brakes. They're just noisy.
You're just going to be that guy.
Well, so I was like, this was kind of like end of summer in the fall, and now over winter when it's cold, it is so embarrassing to pull up to a red light.
And you're just like,
Like my wife
It's
pulls
me.
into
It's
the
me.
garage, and I can, in my upstairs bedroom that is not over the garage, I can hear the brakes squeaking when she's pulling in, and I'm just like, oh. So I need that quote on those brakes because I'm ready to spend the money. It's truly embarrassing.
whatever it takes, Mike, whatever it costs.
Well, and the best worst part about these brakes is, the SRT8, they got the big Brembo package on it. Literally nobody makes brakes, aftermarket brakes for this thing. Like,
So I'm really excited for this quote.
yeah,
On the parts.
we'll talk about that later.
So how much cheaper would it be if Lund bought the brakes for Walsh and just installed them on his own with his air filter?
With YouTube and my wrench.
Well, I'm predicting that it'd probably take about a week and a half.
Longer. I'll predict longer than that.
I'll just wait till a buddy of mine actually had a work truck, and he had some offshoot shop fix it for him instead of their regular automotive shop they take it to. And he was on a trip, and all of a sudden the rear wheel locked up. And what the fuck? So he takes it into another shop that knows what they're doing. And this was the first time I'd ever seen this, but he's driving like a Ford pickup of some sort, or a Chevy. And apparently the brake pads have an inside outside. I mean, I've seen that a ton on cars, especially in performance brakes, but they had put the wrong brake pad inside outside and it had locked up the rear wheel. And so, you know what, maybe if Lundy does the brakes for Kev, he'll actually put the backing plate to the brake pad up against the rotor, and the things will squeal worse than before he started.
Hey, you always want to know when you're coming. You always want to make an announcement when you arrive.
Oh, they know.
No, I would never touch your brakes.
Yeah.
That's not me. That's
Thank
not
you.
who I am. So, Mike, moving on here. You've got Alberta European Motorworks, Alberta Asian Motorworks. By my count, there is 7 continents in the world. So is the plan to have
Alberta,
Antarctica Motorworks? Is that the next one, or
No.
is that going to be like down the line?
I think we're pretty tapped out here. It's even getting into running a strictly domestic shop. I mean, had we not been in the height of a pandemic when we started Alberta Asian Motorworks, the shop right behind us that used to be Mr. Transmission, it shut the doors maybe about a year and a half ago, and it has also sat vacant. And so, but I swear to God, if my dad and I open another shop, my mom's gonna literally kill us. Because I was like, hey, because there's a couple of vacant ones. There was one up on the north end too, and I drove by it one day and I looked and I was like, man, this is actually pretty nice. They did some nice renos in the front office. I had the commercial realtor send me the listing, and they had a couple of really nice hoists in there. And I was like, man, this could be another good little venture. And I mentioned it to Dad, and he's like, no, I think I've been married to your mom for, they've been almost 40, they'll be married 40 years in June.
Oh, congrats.
And,
Happy anniversary.
yeah, you betcha. And he said, if I want to be married to your mom for another 40, I won't be opening up another shop.
Sounds like a smart guy.
Yeah, so we'll probably just stick with the 2 we got. It causes enough stress. So
Hey, when we have you on next time, maybe then will be the perfect time to open up number 3.
yeah, maybe, you bet.
Australia.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
down under.
Speaking of Arctic, though, it may not be a shop, but you do have a side hustle too. Because I'm sitting here on the couch watching everyone else drink this beer that you could talk. And maybe while you talk about it, Lund will do a nice little display for the camera. But just tell us a bit about your side gig here.
Yeah, so side gig, I'm a local sales rep for Polar Park Brewing out of Edmonton. If you guys want a quick, fun little, can we venture for a while here?
Yeah, we never do that on this podcast, so go ahead.
I gotta tell you the story on Polar Park Brewing. So my buddy Rob, he's always wanted to open up a brewery, and the B Bell Bakery in Edmonton, which is just off of White Ave and Calgary Trail, came vacant, and he bought it a couple years ago and decided he was going to open up this brewery. And so he's, humming around names and trying to figure out what to call the place. And his grandfather, if you guys actually want to have a little fun time on Google later, his grandfather, his name is Al Oming. And he actually started back in the 60s, maybe even the 50s. It was called the Polar Park. And it was east of Sherwood Park. They had polar bears, elephants. He had a fucking white rhino.
In Alberta?
In Alberta.
Like illegally?
Okay, this was the 50s and 60s.
There was no rules.
right?
Yeah, don't worry.
The Wild West.
Yeah, so we've got a Hefeweizen that's called the One Tame Cheetah, and he used to bring a cheetah into schools in the 70s.
That's why our parents are so much tougher than we are.
Absolutely. So all of the beers that we have, the Man of the North Pilsner that Kev's drinking, CBC actually did a docu-series on Al Oming back in I'm not exactly sure, maybe the 80s or 90s, and they labeled him the Man of the North. The Archipelago is I get told you I was going to butcher this, but there's a backstory to it all. If you go into the brewery, all the old signage from the Polar Park is up on the wall in the brewery. A couple years ago, I actually got to go walk the old Polar Park. The polar bear enclosure is still there. They had silverback gorillas. We got to walk into the gorilla enclosure. And then Al's son actually was the one. So Rob's dad was giving me the tour and walking around, and we were just shooting the shit. And he goes, yeah, so the silverback gorillas used to be in here, and they like to escape. I said, what the fuck do you mean they like to escape? Yeah. Let's go. So he brings me into the enclosure, and he goes, they used to push this tree over, scale up the wall, and he goes, the only way, again, this is the 70s and 80s, so all the animal rights activists out there, don't get too offended. He said the only way we could get them back into the enclosure was to lure them in with Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Sponsor drop.
That's how we get Lund back in the house too.
Yeah. So anyways, it's a wild story. I mean, I think Al Oming, after he was done with Polar Park, him and Brett the Hitman Hart's dad, I don't know what his name is, they started
Mr. Hart.
There you go. They started
I think
so.
How do I know that?
They started Stampede Wrestling together.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Like honestly, this Al
Did he
Oming,
wrestle the polar bears? Like
no.
How do you?
Yeah, no.
How do you go from being a conservationist to starting?
Well,
Stampede
conservationist is a loose term.
Yeah, I don't know if you listen to this.
I'm just reading what it says on the beer can here.
50s and 60s, remember?
He once was. I think I can, for myself, I'm a big fan of cans and the craft beer cans.
Yeah, you are.
Real mature Ted.
Big old set of cans.
Yeah, I love cans. But these cans, oh my God. These beer cans are, they're all okay, I quit.
They're
Well, you know
great
what?
cans. Great to look at, great to hold.
The labeling, actually, we just won top branding in Canada.
There you go. I love your cans.
You love our cans. Yeah, so it's great. You know what? I enjoy it. I like the beer. The beer is great, and I decided that I feel like there's this entrepreneur in me that I really struggle to try to like keep calm. And I work with a guy out of the States trying to help other shops be better at being automotive shops, and now I'm doing the beer thing, and my wife is like, hey, like you need to slow it down. And so the beer thing is just for fun. I love to go out and shoot the shit with people, and there's no better reason to shoot the shit than over a good pint, right?
So one last question from me, and going back, because Kevin mentioned you knew these guys in high school. What was it like? Again, I'm always curious for people, not best friends with these guys, obviously, or anything, but you knew them. And then 15 years later, you see these guys pop up on Instagram and they're doing shirtless firefighter photos and doing whatever. Like when you first saw this, were you wondering like, what the fuck are these guys doing? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
And how did Dustin Moore make it out of high school?
Well, I always had high expectations for Dusty. He was one of the good guys in high school. I was never the popular kid in high school, and there was a couple of the older boys that were, just assholes. And you know what? That's high school for you, right? I mean,
Kevin.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I was like
4'8".
I was going to throw Lundy under the bus for that one, but
Beat you to it.
yeah, no, it's cool. I love it. I think it's great. I don't know. The podcast thing is. It's taking over the world. I mean, everybody and their dog's got a podcast now.
You didn't mean ours, Kevin. You just meant in general.
No, it's great. I think it's a lot of fun that you guys get to come here, and I appreciate you guys having me on. I mean, what a great way to spend an evening, even if it is maybe a Tuesday, or are we saying that?
Everyone knows it takes me 2 weeks to edit an episode.
That's well, I mean, with the amount of debauchery that happens around here.
Don't confuse Lund with the timeline. I was a little unclear last time. It went very bad.
I wasn't sure if we were here or there or like before or after, so we couldn't say certain things because they hadn't yet happened, even though they did actually happen. It was definitely a Twilight Zone situation. So
that's fair.
So let's just keep it in the present for right now.
So going back to cars, what's maybe not like the nicest car, but what's the most memorable vehicle that you've worked on?
Oh man, I don't know. There's a lot. I mean, we've seen a lot of cool cars come through the shop. I mean, for me personally, the coolest car that I've worked on and I will one day own it's called a Lotus Super 7. The one that I want, I'm looking a few years down the road here, but it had so they're obviously a 4-wheel open wheel car, 2-seater. They weigh like 900 pounds, fully custom. The one I drove had a 1300cc Hayabusa motor in it, with the sequential gearbox out of the motorcycle. And you could literally, hopefully there's no RCMP listening to this episode, but I pulled onto Gaetz and just humped on it. And I was 1, 2, 3 into third gear before I hit the beginning of the bridge from my shop.
That's like 100 yards, not even.
Yeah, ish. And I was doing 70 miles an hour.
Oh my God.
It's probably one of the fastest cars I've ever driven. But I mean, I know, like, working on sports cars is awesome. You know, working on Lamborghinis, and you know, we don't see a ton of them. Obviously, you know, Red Deer's still up and coming in the financial world. I mean, if we were in Calgary and Edmonton, we might be a little bit better off that way. But you know, there's a couple of guys in town that have them that allow us to work on them. Periodically, we get a Rolls Royce or a Bentley in the shop, and nothing drives like a Rolls or a Bentley. You know, they float, and they've got so much power. I mean, you know, look at a Bentley's got a twin turbo 12-cylinder engine in it, that in a 2-door car, but the thing weighs 7,000 pounds, but it'll still annihilate a Mustang. You know, like, there's a lot of cool stuff out there.
Just listening to you talk about cars and the passion that's behind this is like, gives me the shivers a little bit, to be honest. Like, I'm never going to own any one of these cars, or never understood one word you talked about that Lotus 90, 75, 40 cc or whatever you said. But
yeah, it's 40 cc's.
I love hearing just the passion behind what you do and what you've built here in Red Deer, and everyone knows when they come, you know, to the bottom of that hill, they see your shop. It's a little monopoly on that corner, and I love seeing it. And I think every time I drive past. So
we've thought about moving many times, but I'm like, man, we cannot give up this prime spot. You know, like being right there on the corner.
Well, the amount of cars that must pass by your shop every day.
Well, and I was just gonna say, I mean, there's a ton of times that people come in and I go, well, how'd you hear about us? And I'm really hoping that it's like, I heard your radio ad, I saw you on social media, because that's the shit we spend money on every goddamn month.
Oh dear podcast.
Right? There you go.
Shitty podcast that's taken over the world. Yeah.
But you know, there's so many people that come in and they go, honestly, I've been driving by for, you know, 6 months. There's people that say they've been driving past for upwards of 2 years. And then they're like, I thought I'd pop in and give you guys a try. It's like, well, I'm happy it took 2 years of you driving by, but welcome. We appreciate your business.
So, Mike, before we wrap things up here, besides just popping in or driving by, how else can people get a hold of you? You said Instagram.
Yeah, we're everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Obviously, if you hit up Google and type in Alberta Asian Motorworks, we'll pop up. You know, really hoping if my web guys are doing their job, if you type in Lexus Repair Red Deer, we should be, boom, right at the top. And there's everything on our website, explains what we do. There's a contact us page on there. You can fill out your information. But yeah, I mean, just if you want to just pop in and say hi, even just to see what we do, I can give you a rundown. I'll take you through the shop. I don't care, you know.
And so if you guys heard it here first, if you have that sound in your vehicle, you're not sure what it is, Mike will figure it out with his $100,000 scanning machine that he got for, what is it, a Mercedes-Benz or a...
Yeah, that was for the Mercedes, yeah.
Yeah. Does it work on all vehicles or just Mercedes?
No, that one is strictly Mercedes, yeah.
Shit.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Shit.
Not Nissan Pathfinders or Sentras or...
Nope, I do have a scan tool for those though, no worries, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'll take you outside to my car and you can look at the one side and see if the expert can figure out what's wrong with it. Okay. There's an 8-foot gash on the whole side.
Oh yeah,
you can't
see, and that's another thing. We don't do that stuff. You know what? Bodywork that's a whole other realm of expertise. And, if you come to me and say, hey, Mike, this is what I got going on. I walk out to your car and I see your 8-foot gash in the side of your vehicle. I'm going to give you a recommendation for a shop because I got a good buddy of mine that runs a body shop in town. He does great work. Him and his brother run 2 separate shops. So I got a recommendation for everything, honestly. If it's something we can't do, I'll make sure to pass you on to the right place. But most of the time, we can take care of it for you. That's for sure.
Or we'll talk. We'll take this offline. We'll talk later.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, I wasn't making it up. It's quite large.
I just want to see the video footage of what you hit.
It was a buried parking block, like in a snowbank. So when I was turning out of a dark parking lot, it just got the whole side of my car.
Yeah, that fucker came out of nowhere.
Oh, buddy, we've got. We just put up a new security camera on our north-facing wall of the Asian shop, and it looks into the Euro shop parking lot. And we've got these cement barriers there because people like to use before the pot shop was there, because now that's nonstop traffic. People used to fly through the Euro shop parking lot to beat the light.
Right.
And we almost had a tech get hit maybe, 10 years ago, maybe less. So we put up these big cement blocks. And now that we own both shops, we pulled out the one so we could get between them, so because we're
right,
things like that. And at night we pull our pylons away and we put them inside so that people can get through there, because we don't need to leave our pylons out. But the amount of times that I come to the shop in the morning and those fucking things weigh 600-700 pounds. The amount of times I've come to the shop and that thing is completely pushed. And then we go into the security camera to see what happened. Holy hell.
Just hammering it.
Oh, man. The one guy literally drove his Raptor, which is why I think the only reason that one didn't leave a bunch of shit everywhere, up over the top of it. The one, we saw one, it was a nice new Pathfinder. And they kind of backed up, and then I watched him and I went, oh no. And he ramped up and then stopped, backed up, gets out. And he must have bent the shit out of his running board, because I just see him get out and he's jumping up on this running board trying to maybe straighten it out or something. But oh yeah, it's bi-weekly, I would say, we have to move that cement barrier back. So I'll have to go back in the video footage and see if that was you, Teddy.
It wasn't. It was at a. First of all, I don't think my Nissan Sentra could make it up and over any of that. But no, it was at a competing brewery.
Oh,
where it happened. So
okay.
Yeah, nothing cool. I just misjudged a snow pile.
And competing breweries, we don't have those. I mean, I love the craft beer market. I think it's great. There's so many of them. They all make great beer. I love to try them all. I mean, obviously, when I sit at home, I got a fridge full of Polar Parks, so that's what I drink. But you know what? If you open my fridge right now, I've got Blind Man in there, Troubled Monks in there. I love craft beer, and I think it's great. I mean, you got to support everybody to keep everybody going. I mean, that from my perspective as a business owner for automotive shops, I'll never talk ill about another business. I have a lot of people that come into my shop and go, I just had this here, or, oh, I just had this done here. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to talk ill about another shop. I'll just tell you what I see, and then we'll go from there. And I feel like everybody should do that,
We'll do that for you. We'll stand outside of other dealerships and just talk shit.
Lundy will spin a sign.
Yeah.
This place sucks.
You can get this for $10.
Yeah, these guys know what they're talking about when it comes to cabin air filters. Mike, we really appreciate you coming in today. Thanks for dropping off this Polar Park Brewing beer. It was delicious. I know I'm speaking for everyone here when I say we learned quite a bit today. I'm not sure how much we'll remember, but that's what the recording is for. So cheers, Mike. Hopefully you guys open up that Alberta, Antarctica, European... No, Alberta.
I was really hoping he was going to nail
Alberta, Antarctica Motorworks next time we see you. And the other 4 after that. So cheers.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. I was almost nervous about this, but I figured hanging out with a bunch of buddies I knew from back in the day. Holy shit.
It was great to see you again.
Yeah, thanks, Teddy.
And Lund, last thing though, what do we have for him to hang in his shops?
Oh yeah, we have this lovely firefighter picture of us fully clothed. No, just kidding. Half clothed. And yeah, you can put it in both shops. So you're welcome.
And if you pay us $10, we'll sign it for you.
Well, I just want to know if Lundy was packing there or not.
I can confirm. I can confirm there was 2 socks inside.
No, just
socks
one.
inside those boots.
Come on, Dust. There's just one sock. No need to mad dog me like that, man.
Oh dear.